It is time for us to say good afternoon, talk tech. We do this every Thursday afternoon. Carmi Levy, CTV tech analyst, is on the line. So, Carmi, I thought we'd start with a story that kind of blew up this week, not necessarily tech to start with, and that's to do with this Campbell Soup story where an executive at Campbell Soup gets caught muttering some pretty awful stuff about people who buy the product and how awful it is. But your story concerns, and I had not heard this up until you kind of sent me this note, Campbell's promises its soups are not made with 3D printed meat. Where did this come from?
So the vice president of information technology was recorded saying some really nasty things, racist things. He called Campbell's soups bioengineered, said they were 3D printed, said they were just basically, trashed his own product. And it normally would not have seen the light of day, but the employee who recorded it without telling anyone else subsequently sued the company, and it's now been shared in court. So it went viral, as you can imagine, because a high up at Campbell should not be saying our soup is 3D printed, and the company went to the extraordinary step of actually issuing a statement across all their social media platforms, also to media, saying that we do not 3D print our soups, and our chicken is actually chicken. Like, I've never seen this at all. I think it's fascinating. If you work, anyone who works knows full well, you can be recorded, whether you're in person or whether you're online. Audio, video, anything you say can and will be used against you. And you sort of have to be really careful about what you say and to whom, because you never know that there could be one person in a Zoom call, and it wasn't really clear if this was recorded in a Zoom call or in person, but it could just be one person online who you just don't see, sitting there quietly lurking in the back, has their smartphone rolling, you don't see the camera, or maybe it's just audio, but next thing you know, you're being sued and it's going viral. And this is an example of that. We all really should be watching our mouths a little bit more than this guy clearly did.
Well, I think we can all breathe easier knowing now that there's no 3D printed meat.
It's a good thing, yeah, but it's just still way too much sodium, so I think I'll pass. We'll stick with homemade soup.
And other things that don't look all that normal either. All right, next story. Study finds that mental health benefit to a 1-week social media break. I know this gets talked about a lot, and typically we talk about it in the context of children, but this is kind of more general than that, isn't it?
Yeah, this is older. So they got about 300 volunteers aged 18 to 24. This is from Harvard Medical School that actually ran this, published the research in JAMA Network Open, so pretty, peer-reviewed, pretty respected. And they asked them to, fill out a survey before and then after a 1-week break from social media. So when they started, they were using social media at a rate of about 2 hours a day, and by the time they turned it off, it was no more than half an hour a day. And so they measured things like anxiety, depression, whether they were feeling lonely, and they found that after the week, after their basically social media detox, anxiety was down 16%, depression was down 25%, wow. Insomnia down by 15%, and that was especially pronounced in people who said they had severe depression. And the only one that did not really move was loneliness. And the researchers think that that's because, social media kind of has a positive social role. It connects you to people, so probably not as pronounced there. But, they're saying this is not definitive research. It's an initial piece of research. Further investigation is required, and they're trying to get sort of the methodology put together and the funding for more comprehensive research. But they're saying this is pretty exciting. It's starting to confirm that, social media isn't really that good for us, and scientifically, we're starting to now get the proof.
Wonder how many more studies like that we'll need before people kind of catch on and realize, it'd be a good idea to take a break, but I guess we're not quite there yet.
We'll get there, though.
Yeah, CRTC study. This is interesting, updating the definition of Canadian content, but AI does not count.
Yeah, CanCon, as it's called, has been around since 1971, and originally it was just for music, but we live in a multimedia world, so the definition of Canadian content now includes every other kind of content. And so the definitions of it that were coined, half a century ago no longer apply. So it used to be either 2 of the 4, music, artist, performance, or lyrics. They called it MAPLE. And you had to have at least 2 of those, a Canadian, in order to qualify. Well, now they've expanded that. Now it could be the head of costuming, the special effects director, the showrunner, which makes a whole lot of sense, different world. However, they said you can't use artificial intelligence in order to qualify. In other words, don't sort of stick some AI-generated synthetic audio or video in and call it Canadian, which sounds logical at first blush, and I think that makes sense. Good on you, CRTC, but it still kind of reinforces we still haven't really we know what we can't use AI for, but I'd really love to hear from the CRTC, what can we use AI for? What are the laws? What are the regulations? We still live in a country that does not have an AI law, and whenever the CRTC opens its mouth about CanCon, kind of reinforces just how far behind we are other countries and regions like the European Union that are already, using laws like this and helping their content creators and entertainment industry professionals figure it out.
But you think we're heading more? I mean, AI, I hate to say it's relatively new, but of course it is. So designing or defining rules for what's Canadian, what's not, what can be used, this is ever evolving, isn't it?
It is, and the hope was that when we introduced the Online Streaming Act, that would be part of that process. And that's really what the CRTC is doing. You're saying we've got some new laws on the books for online streaming, also for online news, and we've got to kind of figure out how they get enforced day to day as AI becomes much more sophisticated. So bit by bit, we are starting to see individual rules being introduced, and this is one of them. But you can only take that so far. You still need an AI law that will then apply to every other piece of legislation, sort of connect in, make it a much more, let's call it, effective process than it currently is.
All right, let me move on to talk about this next piece here, because I'd read this just the other day, and this is actually perhaps something we never thought of before. You kind of wonder about where accounts come from. Sometimes you're on X, you're seeing stuff, don't really know what it's for, but now there's apparently a situation where you can tell, at least we think, where something is coming from. And I know politically, I saw some guy post on this just the other day saying, hey, guess what? This looks like it's talking about America, but it's coming from Africa. So what's this about on X?
So if you look at the profile of anybody on X, you'll see at the top there's one line that says joined, and it's got the date when they joined. If you tap or click on that link, it'll take you to a page that's called About This Account. And they added, so over the weekend, X added, it says account based in, and actually shows the country where this account is based. So, I looked at mine. It says that I'm based in Canada. I looked at some of my friends. They're also in Canada. Looked at some Americans. They're from the U.S. But as it turns out, many accounts that are very politically charged, so think, some of the biggest names in the MAGA movement, for example, turns out they're not based in the U.S. at all. And once this feature went live, everyone started immediately going to look at these accounts, and they realized, they're based in, in Europe. They're based in Bangladesh. They're based in Russia. And so it caused a bit of a firestorm. X dialed back the feature a little bit. They say they need to update their data. This is interesting. If you claim that you're an American patriot, but you're not actually based in the U.S., are you really? So, obviously that would be controversial, but I think it also reinforces the fact that X has not been upfront about how they ensure they know where your account originates from. So is it where you were when you first set up the account? Does it follow you around as you travel over the years? No one seems to know, and the company really isn't saying a whole lot about it. So yet again, X getting a lot of publicity it probably doesn't deserve, and a lot of accounts that didn't want people to know where they were from, well, now they've had the light shone under the darkness of the rock, and they're, a little sheepish this week.
Yeah, which in and of itself is maybe not such a terrible thing, right? I mean, the fact that you can find this out, so...
Exactly. I mean, it speaks to authenticity. If you say that you are, in this nation, and in fact, you're a foreign operative instead, trying to influence from the outside, I think people online who consume your content really do have the right to know. And I think this is a good thing. A lot of people got some egg on their face, but like I've always said, when you're on social media, you need to learn who you're dealing with, where they're originating from. You need to ensure that you trust them before you engage with their content. This is just another reminder that we need to do a little bit more digging ourselves.
Agreed. Carmi Levy. Carmi, thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Oh, wait a sec, Carmi, before you go real quick, I remember I asked you to do this, but I only have like 30 seconds. You're a tech guy. If you wanted to buy a gadget, like I know they always have lists of cool gadgets, what would you be buying?
If I'm a parent, I'm buying the Next Playground Active Play System. It's kind of like a game console to get kids off the couch. If I'm looking at my backyard, I'm getting a Bird Buddy Pro Solar, which is one of those smart bird feeders, really awesome internet connected with a camera. And for everyone else, you can never have enough cables, charging blocks, backup batteries, memory cards, USB flash devices, you name it. I need more. All my friends need more. They're cheap and easy to throw in a stocking.
What was the first one you said for the kids? What's it called?
It's called the Next Playground, NEX, and it's this kind of revolutionary gaming console that it doesn't have any controllers. It uses cameras that are powered by AI. You open up a spot in your living room, you stand in front of the TV, and you play games using your body as the game player. It's really cool. Cheap. It's about $250 on sale, and you can either use the games that are built in or subscribe to more. And a lot of parent advocates are looking at this and going, this could be the next thing in kids gaming.
Next playground, NEX Playground. All right, Carmi, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd,
and more. All your decade-defining favorites, all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.